Thank you. Just like Warsab said, we're going to go over the different methods of how to create wall panels. So we're going to go over the create menu, the quick create command, the add secondary layer, the multi-layer quick create, and also there is a create by point command. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my level 1. So the first thing that we're going to go over is just the traditional create command. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select my Revit wall. I'm going to go into the MWF tab. So in this example, I am going to be using this Pro Suite. I'm just going to pull this down. Oops. Sorry, I'm just having a little difficulty. There it is. And I'm going to hit create. Now you can see I do have the wall selected. So when we do hit the create menu or create command, you can see that the selection option is disabled. The reason for that is I have selected the Revit wall. So you can select the Revit wall beforehand or just hit the create command, and what's going to happen is this is going to be enabled, and then from there you'll just need to select the wall that you want to create. So you do have both options. So in this one here, what we're going to do is we're going to hit the template. I want to make sure I have the correct template. If you hit the pull down, if you have created your own templates, it would be in this list here. Again, if you imported them, for this example, I am going to be using the default template. So I'm going to select that template that I want to use, set as active, hit close, and then here we're going to hit create. Now, since I have the show properties checked, this means that the properties of this panel that I'm just going to be creating is going to pop up, and then we can do some changes if needed. If we don't, we can just have it unchecked, and that additional dollar box will not appear. So again, like I said, the properties and the default template is going to be using 600 S 137-33 with a 33 mil gauge. So I'm gonna hit OK. So that is how you would create a panel using the create command. Next one I'm going to go over is the quick create. Now for the quick create, we would be using the option, just the command right beside the create. If I just select or hit the create, selecting my walls, and I haven't set it up, what's going to happen is a dollar box is going to pop up stating no template map has been found. The reason for that is you haven't set it up. So to set it up, it is going to be under the setup. So you can see you have your template manager, and then you have your template map. To use the quick create, your templates need to be created beforehand. So in this case, my templates are already created. I'm going to hit template map. So in this one, I have a template map already created, but we can, hit the add new and then add a new one. So this also allows you to, have a template map for each level. If maybe the walls are the same on each level, but maybe the spacing is different, or maybe the gauge is a little bit different, you can create different template map. You can quick create your first level, and then when we get to the second level, come back in here and select, level 2, and then quick create them. So for the one I'm currently using, these are the 2 walls I have. So we'll need to hit the plus button, select the, the walls that we have. So these are all the ones that are existing in the project. And then you have your templates. Again, I'm just going to be using the default, but these are the ones I have in this project. You have your structural layer thickness, and then here we have the lock to template, so you can lock your panels to your template. So anytime you update the template, you can regenerate the lock panels and they will apply the new changes to it. This option is only available when you quick create, and it has to be checked beforehand. If you do have a panel that is unlocked, you can lock it back to a template if you need it. However, the changes are going to, if there is any instance changes, they're going to be replaced with the templates you're associated to it. So I'm going to hit OK. So that is set up. You need to make sure when you are in the template map, if you do have multiple ones, that you have selected the correct one and then something is selected. So we're going to hit OK. So I'm going to select the panel that I want to use the quick create on. So I'm going to select it, and then we're just going to go where the quick create is, and we're going to click it. So what's happening right now is the software is looking at that wall. It says, okay, I am this certain wall. I'm exterior. Then it's going to go to that map and says, am I on that list? Yes. What template am I associated to? Okay, this in this case is the light gauge. We're going to create a panel based off of that information that we have there. So now if I zoom in there, you can see I do have some studs. It does recognize the openings, and it'll place the information around that opening based off of what that template has. Next one I'm going to be showing you is the create by point. So the create by point works with when you have when you're using split markers. So if I just kind of zoom into this area here, referencing this split wall horizontal. So this is if you're going to be using any of your split tools. So you would use this in the sense where you have a large wall like this. This is about almost 77 foot. By default, we'll create one wall. However, it's a very large panel, so we kind of want to break it out into sections. So this is where the split tools will come in. You would run that. Please note that if you're going to be using these tools, there needs to be no panel in that Revit wall. So in this case, if I was going to run it in this wall, it would not work because I already have panels in there. So then from there, we quick create it or create based on how you want to do it. And then here you can see that there's no panel. So what I have done in this case is I have deleted it. However, I realized that I shouldn't. So I want to create a new panel. If I do select the wall and hit quick create, it's going to give you an error say you can't because there's panels. However, if you hit to create, it allows you, but it's going to create one full one, and we don't want that. We want the panel just to be created in this section here. So to do that, we're going to select the Revit wall. Where the create is, we're going to hit that pull down, and we're going to say create by point. So just on the below there, the gray right here, it's going to say select the point to create the panel. So I want to start the new panel based off of this split marker. Your create menu is going to pop up. So in this case, I'm going to hit create because I've already assigned my template and it remembers my last template. So I'm going to hit create. The dollar box, excuse me. Then you can see here that my new panel, it's panel 266. If we select that member here, just scroll down here, you can see it's my E1 panel 266. And you can see that that panel has stopped right here. So by using create by point, is you're saying from one point to another. Because the software knows there is a split marker, it knows that it needs to stop there. So if you were going to be using split markers and then one panel has been removed and you need to create another panel in that location, this is where you can use the create by point. So that is the create options for a single layer. So we went over the create command, the quick create, and then create by point. So now what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the multi-layer create options. So first option is the add secondary layer command. So this allows users to select an existing single layer and convert it into a multi-layer panel, and allows the user to put multiple layers if needed. So you can see here, if I do select a member from this panel, I just kind of scroll down to the instance properties where the parameters are. You can see it has a BIMSF container, so it is a a single layer panel. And so what I want to do in this case is I want to add, just going to move this a little bit. I want to add sheeting to this panel. We can see that, we do have the layers. However, I want to, place it. So to do that, instead of, deleting my panel and then using the multi-layer quick create, we can now, convert it. So to do that, you need to select the Revit wall. We're going to go back into the MWF. I'm just going to pull this up over here. And then we're going to go into the operations, and we're going to scroll down to add secondary. We're going to click on it. Now you'll see that your panel label does flip to the other side. As soon as you do regenerate, it's going to go back to its original location. And to know if you have done it correctly is you're going to select the Revit wall again. You're going to go back into the operations, and you're going to hit wall properties. Now we're going to be dealing with this location here because it is multi-layer. So we're going to hit wall properties. Now if this dollar box pop-ups, that means you have done the add secondary layer command correctly. So you need to make sure you select the Revit wall, not an element of the panel, the wall. Now from here you can see we have that structural layer. So it's an instance again, because that's how the single layer creates them. And then from here we can add a sheeting layer. So I'm just going to click the none. We're going to select the sheeting. I've already created one. It says gypsum. We're going to hit select. You can see that that layer now is associated to a template. It is locked, so that means any changes you do to the template, all you have to do is regenerate, and it's going to apply that changes. Then from there, we're going to hit OK. And then now the software is going to be placing the sheeting on that panel. So if I just select this one here, again, this is just based off of the template I selected. So here it is using a 4x8. If I kind of scroll down, you can see that it does have, container. However, you can see that there's now a master container. So when you convert a panel, a single layer to a multi-layer panel, that panel now has a master container. The reason for that is one panel can have multiple layers. So everybody has a master one, and then they can convert it into, being one combined panel. If I do select the core layer, that was a single layer, now I'm a multi-layer panel, and then just scroll down to the same option here, you can see it has a master container also. If I do select the one that is a single layer, you can see in this here, oops, I think I went too far. There it is. Master container is blank because it is a single layer. So that's how you would take a single layer and convert it into a multi-layer and add, layers to that wall. So now what I'm going to go over is the multi-layer quick create command. So I'm going to select the wall so that I just know what type of wall it is. I'm going to go into the WF tab again. And for this one here, we're going to go into the settings. So the settings is the project settings, and this is where you have your template map. This is also where the structural templates are stored. So this is going to just give us a list. If you want to modify a structural template, so that would be your single layer, it would be still the same method. So you would need to create a panel. So you need to have a Revit wall, create that panel, go into the panel's property, do the modifications as needed, check it, and then update the template. With the multi-layer, because we do have secondary and sheeting layers, those you can go into the template itself in this dollar box and do the changes. So let's say if we go into the sheeting, hit modify, we can come in here and do the changes here, and then the ones that are locked, we can just regenerate. So they work for the sheeting, secondaries, and also secondary opening types. But for the structural template, that's still the core layer, that you still need to use the traditional method of creating a panel, going to the properties, doing the changes, applying it to the template. So here is the template map that we're going to set up for the multi-layer quick create. So what I'm going to do here is, here's all the list of all the panels I have in this project. We do have an option here to search. So I'm going to look for exterior. So again, this is going to give us a list of all the exteriors that we have in the project. So this is my panel here. I can see it's the naming convention. And here I've already set up the mapping. So you can see I have my core layer here that's using a default light gauge. And then I also have a gypsum, and it's going to be using that gypsum layer that I previously created. All my layers are locked. So again, if we do any changes to the template, all we have to do is update, regenerate those panels, and the changes will be applied. You can unlock them, so you just check it, and it will be an instance. So anything you do to that panel's property of that instance layer, it will only affect that one, not the others. Now that we have this option set, we're going to hit OK. We're going to select the wall again. We're going to go into MWF. We're going to go into the operations, and we're going to hit the create. So again, multi-layer and the single layer, they're going to do the same concept. They're going to check that wall type. They're going to go into the mapping, look for that wall, and it says, okay, there's my wall. Do I have any layers associated to it? So in this case, it has the core layer and then the sheeting layer. So if I kind of zoom in here, there's my sheeting layer, and then here's my core layer. So again, I can go back in there, after, and we do have a few other, 3 other layers there. We can associate things to it. So when it comes to multi-layer, how many layers your wall has is how many layers you can, place. Again, you just need to keep in mind that, if you have 6 layers, the software is creating each of the layers. So it's going to take a little bit more time, but just keep that in mind. But you can see within seconds that panel was created. Perfect. So today I went over the create menu commands, the quick create command, the create by point command, and then that's for the single layers. And then for the multi-layer, I showed you how to convert a single layer to multi-layer using the add structural command, and then also showed you how to quick create using the multi-layer options.
Thank you, Merlin, for the demonstration. Now we'll open the floor for your questions, and I see that we have our first question of the session. I'm just going to read it out here. So this question is about breaking panels with markers, and the question is about, can we break the panel at specific dimensions? This was asked by Carl.
Yes, that is. So I'm just going to take this wall over here, and I'm just going to move it. So when breaking it to specific dimensions, sorry. So again, with that, there's a couple of ways we can do it manually. Now, again, if you're doing it manually, it does take some time. We do have a tool. I'm just going to go up here. I'm just going to move this back up here. We do have a tool under the markers. It's called split by roll. Now this command, you have a minimum and you have a maximum. So this right here, will give you a specific dimension. So let's say your maximum is 10 feet. You put that value in there. And then you say the smallest panel that I can create is 2 feet. That's the smallest. Then here you also have when it comes to opening tolerance. So if that 10 feet lands on an opening, by default we move it in. So again, still respecting that 10 feet. And then from that opening, how close can you create a panel? Again, you need to keep in mind how many members or that opening has, or maybe there's 2 kings. Again, you have an end stud. So again, that's a tolerance that you need to put in your end. And then you have that split marker. If I hit confirm, you can see it places it. So if I do dimension, oops, my apologies. And you can see it's going 10 feet. Again, I don't have any openings or anything like that, so it's going to keep that 10 feet. There is a possibility, I think in the end, it's less than the 10 feet just because it was about 76 point something value. So Again, now that you have placed those, you can move them if you like. So again, we see that this is a, an odd number. If you don't want to keep that, you can also, shift them if you need to. Just keep in mind, these split markers has to be placed before your panels are created. So if you've already created the panels in this wall and you want to use it, it's going to prompt a warning saying panels are already created. So you'll need to remove the panel, have a fresh Revit wall with no MWF panels, and then from there split your panels, then use the split tools, and then from there we can quick create it, and it will recognize those split markers at that specific locations and then create your panels.
All right, we just have a follow-up question from Carlos. I was wondering if we can control the actual break dimensions, like 1/8 of an inch or 1/4 of an inch in between panels.
Yes, we can. So to do that, we will need to select the default. So the default is flush, right? So if we do go back to this location over here, you can see, they're back to back. So there's no gap there. Now, if we want to add a gap, what we'll need to do is we'll need to select the default marker. We will need to duplicate it to create that one. So I'm going to go into edit type. We're going to hit duplicate. Sorry, it's just on the screen. So I'm going to do the, what's it called? The half a gap. Okay, that's what I'm just going to be naming it. I'm going to hit OK, and then you have a right gap and a left gap. So again, that needs to equal to what I want my gap to be. So I'm going to say 0.25 on each. Going to hit OK. Now from here, I can, because I already have one placed, I can, select them and then switch them over, or I can, I'm going to remove those and then just go back into the tool again. I'm going to keep the same value, but for here, I'm going to change it. So there's my half a gap. We're going to hit confirm. And now if, let's say, if I quick create this one, oops. There, it's almost done. If you just kind of zoom in there, you can see there is a gap there. And if I dimension, there's your half a gap. And you need to keep in mind that your panel is not 10 feet anymore. It's 10 feet minus the quarter.
Okay, I hope that answers the question. Carlos, we have a question from Mike Schultz. Welcome to the webinar. What if there is no Revit wall? Can you build it in the program?
Well, when you open up a blank project in Revit, Revit does give you default Revit walls. So this right here, if I select this right here is a default one. So this was, you can see that they do give you ones. Now, if you need specific Revit walls that are not in this list, you can always come in here and say, okay, it's a default, we can duplicate it, and then from there, just gonna, let's say MWF wall 6-inch. And then from here, you can go in here and then just add the layers you want. Now from there, that's how you would create a Revit wall. But to place MWF panels, you need to have a Revit wall, placed in the level that we're currently in or in the project itself. When opening up a blank project, Revit does give you some blank Revit walls. You from there just duplicate them and set them the way that you would like them to be.
So and he wants to know if the architect does not have it in the model. So yes, you would have to. If it's not in the model, then they would have to first create it. I believe that's the correct answer, right, Marilyn?
Yes. So if you do get a project and there's a specific wall that you need that is not in the pull down, you would just, select a Revit wall that is, similar to it, or because you can duplicate that and then just do it the way that you want. That's what you would do. Just, you can select the existing one, or you can just put one on the side here. You also have here, we can just place one and then just kind of duplicate it if it's not existing in that project.
All right, I hope that answers your question there, Mike. We have another question from Joseph Restegard. So when splitting the wall, can you create the wall splits to have, say, 1 foot to 4 inches spacing to keep the studs at a normal spacing instead of back-to-back studs?
So the back-to-back here, it's just we're stopping a panel and then recreating it. So this is why the back-to-back is there. Now you can, if you like, turn off your end studs. And again, you don't really want to do that just because you have your split here for the panels, but we can continue the spacing. So I'm just going to take this wall over here. I'm going to come in here. I'm going to do the same method I was just doing here. I'm going to hit split split by rule. I'm going to keep the default. I'm going to keep everything as is. Now, if you want to continue spacing of 16 uncentered, you would need to go and create your panel based off of the create command. Again, I already have the panels, the template area selected. We have this what's called a start reference. So by default, we do it by panel. So you have your first panel, we do the 16 uncentered. We realize there's a split marker, or it could be A at the end of the split marker, and then we put the end studs, and then we restart the spacing. Here we do also have an option called the wall. So it will have a continuous spacing of 16 uncentered. Again, the back-to-back for the end studs, that's something that you can turn off, but the 16 uncentered can be based off of the, the center of where it's located. So if I do hit create, so it's almost done. Hit OK. Now, if I kind of zoom into this area, perfect. You can see how this one's a little bit closer to here. So if I go here and I do my spacing, so again, you have your first stud, then we do our 16 uncentered. Now from here to here, you can see it gives you that 1'4". Same thing over here. If I look over here, you can see that this one is 1'4". Again, these are your end studs. So this is the start and end of it. So again, you can turn that off if you like. However, you have to keep in mind that they are separate panels, and that your top and bottom track stops right here. So if I, let's say, bring this into a 3D view, so you can kind of get a little bit better view of it. Oops, sorry. Let me just turn off that section box I have placed. So if I kind of zoom in here, you can see that this is one panel and that's another panel. So when it comes to assembling it, you will need these members. Again, you as the user can turn it off if you like, and that is something that you have to go through the panel's property to do that. But if you want to keep your 16 on center throughout this wall, that's how you would do it. So I hope that answers your question.
In case we were waiting for just a follow-up, I'd just like to say that the floor is at once again open, and it's still open for your questions. And maybe we'll just give it a few more seconds to see if any more questions happen to pop in. And if not, we will wrap up the webinar. Right, that does look like a wrap for today. Once again, I would like to thank everybody for joining us. And as a reminder, you can view the recorded version of this webinar on our LinkedIn channel, on our YouTube channel, and on our Twitter and Facebook by 5:30 p.m. EST tomorrow. And I would like to thank you for joining us and for sending your questions in. I hope we were able to answer them as appropriately as we could. And we will see you next time. We hope you have a great day.
Thank you. Have a nice day.